So Tina, introduce yourself for our listeners. Who are you? What are you about? What does your practice look like? Give me all the things.
Okay. I'm Tina Blaszka. My practice is called Optimal Human Movement, and it's really just helping people understand that they have the ability to heal themselves and to be that beacon of light with them and help them out of their darkness. So you're not alone. I will not fix you, but I will guide you, because ultimately we are our biggest healers. So, licensed massage therapist, Reiki, bioenergetic medicine practitioner, fitness coach, somatic healer, just all of the above. I
So
haven't.
I like to call you my unicorn, right? Like that's what I've always called you. You're
Love
just like the
that.
list goes on and on of all the things that Tina does, and you're just like, okay, well, and
What
you're like,
what do I
I'm
even
not
say?
gonna fix you, and I'm like, are you sure about that?
Yes.
Because you sound like you can, and you sound
But
like you will.
But it's like, what is the word? For the longest time, I almost feel like, hi, I'm Tina, I'm a healer. And it's like, does that encompass? I never know the word to call myself because I really just help people. I
Yeah.
help people through many different modalities. I know a lot of them, not all, but a lot. And I'm sure with at least a few of them, we can get you going somewhere, you know? The
Yes.
whole practice is based off of the physical body, the mental, and the emotional, and the spiritual. And it's just combining them all together. And it's like a wheel, right? And all of these practices work in unison. We can't just focus on one, they're all connected. And so when we do a little bit of everything, our wheel starts to spin.
Hmm.
And then we just grow and grow and grow from that. Um, and whatever bumps come along the way, we just adjust, we pivot, you know? So it's just a whole wellness.
I met Tina through a mutual friend. I was going through a hard time in life. I was actually going through a major life transition, which is what I focus on now in my practice. The way that trauma follows us through all of our life transitions, I have personally found. And every time that you think, like, I'm healed, I did it, you
Mm.
step into this new chapter of your life and things are coming back up. And I have found for myself and for clients too, where they're just like, what the fuck? I thought, right? I thought we worked through this. Like, I remember I
Uh-huh.
would stand in front of the mirror and I'd be like, Vanina, we healed from this. Like, we are fixed from this. Why is it still coming up? And so that's why I really like to focus on life transitions too. That's a huge, huge trigger, I think, for trauma in general. As we grow through life and go through all of these different chapters in our life and fit all of these roles, the things that we've gone through are going to come up. And I think it's so important to utilize the tools around us, the resources around us, be as self aware as possible, hold a lot of love and compassion for ourselves, and become that space where we can sit and be like, okay, what is this uncomfy feeling that I'm having? What is coming up for me? And so I was going through something like that when a mutual friend referred me to you. And I was like, I need to meet this unicorn, right? Like, I heard of all the things that you offered, and I'm like, she's going to fix me. And I remember going to you, and I still think, can you tell our listeners what it looked like the first time that I walked into your office? My vibe and my energy in comparison to you know me now really
I
well as
know
a
you.
person and as a
Okay.
friend.
So, well, you came in, you were wearing all black. I think you even had like a trench coat on, okay? And I was just like very put together, very studious, but very serious. I'm here, I'm ready to do the work. And I was like, I think our first session was 2.5 hours.
It was like
It was
so
very,
long, way too long.
yeah, you're like, what do I do? And I'm just like asking questions, and I'm like just trying to get a feel. And the level of seriousness was through the roof. I was just like, this is a businesswoman and she is ready to heal. She wants to heal and she wants to heal now. And like the playful fun side came out later on. But it was just there was a lot of seriousness and we had to really break that down. And stiffness. Oh, were you
Oh,
stiff?
I'm still very,
You're, I remember the first time I said, okay, touch your toes.
please, no one ever asked me to touch my toes or to just stretch.
And, and you're like, I can't. And I'm like, what?
I remember you were trying to help me do Reiki, and so we stepped outside onto the grass, and you're like, "Do this." It was the most basic thing that anyone can do, and you're like, "Oh wow, you're not very mobile." And I'm like, "You no, wait, you said something like, "Oh wow, you look a lot more fit than you actually are." And I was like, "Yeah, I know. It
Like
sucks."
appearance. That's why you can never judge a book by its
But no,
cover.
but you literally said, it's okay. We won't do anything hard. Like, just touch your toes." And I looked at you and I'm like, I can't touch my toes either. I can't do any of it, okay? Tell me something else.
It was just a great first experience, and I mean so much transpired from that first visit and on. And you
Mhm.
were determined and focused. You're like, what do I have to do? I want to do it. Give me my homework. And I'm like, almost very in the mind, right? And that was part of it. You're so intellectual, so analytical, and we just had to connect them a little bit more. And once there was that connection, I mean, you really started to open up. Things really started to flow. Um, and that's the beauty of the somatic healing, of
So,
bridging that gap.
so going into that actually is you worded that perfectly because I'll never forget feeling like, oh wow, she's the real deal because you're laying on the table. And one of my before I go into that, one of my favorite things about you too, and the practice that you and I had was you had like different structures and different plans set into place that I could choose from, or that was my best fit. But my favorite was going in every time, and I would just lay on the table and I would say, Tina, just do a body scan, right? And like you tell me what you think needs to be worked on today. Like I always would test you, but not because I wanted to see how legit you were. I almost when you go through a significant amount of trauma and you just feel it in you, it's almost like you don't know how to trust yourself. And so I would realize, like, I thought maybe I understood what I was going through or what I was feeling, but I really trusted you so much that I wanted you to tell me. And I wanted to see if those made sense. And it was 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10 times that you were right. And I'll never forget, I laid on the table and you're doing the body scan, you're doing all these things, and you're pushing into you would always push into all my organs and you would be like, oh, here's your pancreas, here's your kidneys, here's your liver. Like you would just know and you would be like under my rib cage too. Oh, and you're like, take a breath. And I'm like, no problem. It's almost like when you're in the gynecologist and he's like
And they're
this deep in you and he's like, so where do you go to college? Like, how's motherhood? And I'm just like, why are we acting like this is very normal right now?
so normal.
Yeah, and I remember you being like all the way under my rib cage and being like, I'm holding your liver right now and like moving things around, being like, did you feel that? And I'm like, the fact that you're in my insides, but from the outside, like, yeah, I fucking feel that. This is crazy. What are you doing? And I'll never forget you held on to my liver and you're just like, this is a mother wound. Blah, 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 blah. And you just kept going on and on about all of this anger that I had stored in my liver and why it was like that and how you could tell. And you were so right. And I didn't want to say it out loud, but in my head, I'm like, holy shit, she's like a little witch. Like she just knows, like she's just holding on to my organs. And so that really made me truly believe in the way that trauma actually is stored in the body because our organs, our tissues, our fascia, all of it respond to all of the stressors, all of the cortisol that comes from the top down approach, right? Of experiencing trauma and then the way that it is fully stored in our body, the way that our body has the ability to remember trauma and be retriggered, right? Like touching a certain part of your body or hurting a certain part of your body can bring up all of these things.
I don't know if you remember this, but you were trying to get pregnant. And I remember you were on my table and we were doing Reiki and I was over your abdomen and I asked you if you were pregnant. And I was like, are you pregnant? Because it felt like a different energy. And you said no. And I think it was a couple of weeks later, you took a test and you were pregnant. So you were very early on in the beginning. And the reason why I say that is because the connection, like energy work is so powerful, but also when the person on your table feels so comfortable, open, and safe, you can really then
Yeah.
help so much more because you can really connect to the energy. And you had mentioned the organs, right? You know, every organ holds an emotion. And in bioenergetic medicine, we call it the downward causation, where you have your mental and emotional body. And the way your thoughts create emotions, which are an electrical charge. And then that electrical charge, depending on what emotion, let's just use the liver and anger, all of them gets zapped. All of a sudden just gets zapped. And then every organ secretes something, right? They all hormones or some type of chemicals coming from the organs. That shock, I like to say, like, you are an electrical unit. And so let's say a situation, you're at like 1,000 watts, 1,000 volts, whatever wattage voltage you want to use. That affects your body so much. And until you really address that situation, it's going to keep coming at you at
Right.
1,000 watts. And so in the beginning, you have the mental and emotional, and that's where things begin. And then you have your energetic body and things. It's a very subtle layer, right? So first, it's always like that little voice in your head, like, I'm not sure. You decide not to listen to that. And then your energetic body, like your everything starts to shift a little bit, but nobody makes change until we reach our physical body and
Right.
until we really experience pain. Just like falling down the stairs, something was stirring maybe on a very subtle level, and I just wasn't tuning in. I wasn't taking the time to be present. I wasn't in my practices enough, or I was just going and going. I don't remember in this moment, but that's what happens when we're not present. We're not in the moment. Everything just kind of goes to shit until it hits our physical body. You know, once we experience pain, it's like, okay, we need to change something.
Hmm.
Um, and so that's what I find, I started massaging, what, I think 16 or 17 years ago. And I mean, it's completely evolved where I wanted to keep going down the rabbit hole. People coming in the same chronic issues. I'm like, okay, well, maybe it needs to be like on a systemic issue, like internally. But then it's like, no, because it's really your mental and emotional body that is truly, that's the start. That's where everything begins.
I feel like this is which came first, the chick or the egg. And so, because it comes to a point where when we experience significant trauma, um, it's like, okay, did it happen to the body first or did the brain process it first? Like, which happened first and where is it being stored? And I have found when I was a practicing clinician that talk therapy, um, can only get you so much. Like, it is so important, right? It is definitely, I think, one of the major first steps is understanding your trauma, understanding your pain, validating first and foremost, right? Becoming self aware. But then I would see that I would hit a wall with certain clients that have experienced a significant amount of trauma. And I'm like, you have to go see Tina, or you have to start moving your body more, or you have to, whatever the case may be, like, we need to find something else other than just talk therapy because it's not just here anymore. Your body has now taken this in and processed it and has stored it in different parts of your body. Or if you've, I guess, experienced physical trauma first, like a traumatic accident or something like that. And now the way that it not only affects your body, obviously, but going into your mind as well.
100%. I love the book, The Body Keeps Score. And really, I mean, it's a very dense, heavy book, but it's so profound and so helpful. And, you know, your cells are listening to you.
Mm-hmm.
Your cells hold memory. There was a study done. I cannot remember this man's name. I think he's based out of Hawaii, but proved that water holds memory, right? And if you're 70+% water, you're able to hold memory. That tissue is holding memory. And us everyday people cast spells with our words. It's a vibration, it's a frequency, and these things affect us on a cellular level. And then that energy gets trapped. So just like you were saying, like talk therapy, I've done talk therapy for years, but without connecting my body, I was kind of, I could be so logical, but the emotion is what we need also to move it. And then to actually move the energy, like you need some type of action. It really comes down to action. You said something earlier on, in the podcast about, being self-aware, and it's so important to become aware. I think it's the first step. Sometimes I can get caught in the cycle of being so aware but not taking an action.
Mm.
It's
Well,
like, I'm
I always
aware,
say,
I
I would
understand.
always say to my clients too, like you can be as self-aware as you want, but self-awareness without action is nothing.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
you're gonna keep sitting in your own shit. Like, okay, great, we're self-aware now. You know, now
Yeah.
what?
Yeah. It's like being in a rowboat and you have two oars, and it's like, but take one away and you're just self-aware. You're just kind of going in a circle. And then it's like, oh, action. Oh, you know what I mean? But if you only take action and don't think, so it's the same. It's like
So
the
it's
yin
the
and the yang.
balance.
Yeah, it's the balance.
Hmm.
You have to find both. You need the harmony within.
Very.
Just before you started coming to me, you were going through major transitions in our life, right?
Hmm.
And you were talking about like, oh, like, Vanina, I healed this, or like, why am I here? Like, things are coming back, things recycle themselves, and it goes back to that electrical charge, you know, that something that happened to us 20 years ago, or 5 years ago, or yesterday, what is that charge at? And it's going to keep coming around, and we're going to keep getting zapped until we can lessen that charge, right? So, something that I wanted to talk about was major life changes, being single and healing, right? And really feeling like you did all of the work. Just kind of like, life is good.
Can't tell
Because
me
this
shit.
was my
Because
experience.
that was my experience.
This was my experience. I'm living alone.
Oh yeah.
I got my degree.
Hmm.
I'm traveling around the world. I'm
We're
just
the same
living
person,
my best
Tina.
life.
I just went to an ayahuasca retreat. I'm thriving in my own apartment. Getting my master's, paying for it all cash. I don't
Yeah,
need a man. I'm
just
doing great.
loving life,
Oh yeah.
And I'm really thinking that I have healed these things. Don't get me wrong, there's still little things, but those charges have lessened.
Well, wait, so we've healed those things, right? And now we feel confident enough to embrace love. Like, I feel like I'm at my best version. I feel like I've enjoyed my independence so much. And I feel very much in my feminine that I am ready to embrace masculinity in and feel like someone can now also take care of me and be that strong masculine force that I no longer feel like I want to push away or I'm afraid of or that I'm angry at, or whatever the case may look like for someone. And or just feeling good enough yourself that now someone will see you and also value you and care for you and respect you and all the beautiful things that we think about love when we're at this high of like, I made it, I'm great, I'm in my healing girl era.
Yeah.
And then we invite in love and we're in a relationship that we have always wanted and we finally pick a good partner, right? It's not someone that we are choosing because it's cyclical or we're just constantly sticking to that person. What's the word that I'm looking for? We're definitely not trauma bonding anymore. We're
Oh,
at that stage.
no.
Like
Yeah.
we're like, I know what
You're
I
not
want.
looking for validation.
No.
Yeah.
And then we are just looking for that healthy love. Like we are ready. And then we find it and we're like, what the fuck is this? Okay, first of all, it starts great. It starts wonderful. We are in la la land. It is so scary because we're like, this is way too good to be true, right? Like, I'm going to get my heart smashed in 1 million pieces. I'm going to have to go through this entire cycle again of healing myself, finding myself, but it's fine. I believe in myself that I will catch myself. I have done this before. I am a veteran. Nothing can mess with me. And then it does, no matter
Oh,
how good it is, how stable. And it's almost like the more stable the relationship is, the
oh.
crazier you feel, the
Mhm.
more traumatized you are. All of these triggers start coming up, and you're just like, I'm sorry. I
Mhm.
didn't know this was still in here. And also, I'm sorry that I just invited you in as my partner and presented myself as like this magical being that has it all figured out because I don't. I don't
Mhm.
even know what's happening. I don't even know if I like you. Why do you like me? Right?
Mhm.
Like all of the things come up.
I even think that, we feel like we're in this great place and we're ready, but let's not forget the how hyper independent we were. Okay. And even though we want all of that masculine has to bring, we want to be in our feminine, there is a level of masculinity that we need in ourselves to tame, to be ready for that. Because I always think, okay, I think I want this. I'm ready for this. And then I get it and I'm like, whoa, it's a bit jarring. And it's actually there was a pastor, there's service that I went to last Sunday. And the example he gave was that you can have two things sitting at the table. You can have happiness and heaviness. So you can have that level of independence or level of healing, but then on the other side, there can also be that level of wanting to be cared for and that level of understanding of like, oh, this relationship is bringing up different different things. Or I was in a bubble, you know? I was in a bubble where I was at, and then as soon as I got into a relationship, it was like this is I had all the self-awareness for years, and then boom, okay, let's take some action. And I was like, I'm not sure if I'm ready for this level of action. And like you said, choosing new partners. I met my partner in jujitsu. We were wrestling. Never in a million years did I think that would happen. And the way that things happen, and the way that I was challenged, and the way that I'm still challenged, and
Are we all?
so challenged. I love him, but very
We love
challenged,
them very much.
very challenging. And a revelation. I think it was not yesterday, it was the day before, after I'm coming out of off of my cycle, and I don't know about you, but when I'm in my
Now,
cycle,
when you're like, it's safe to enter now, I can process
I can
rational
hear
thought.
you. Yes, but I will say this, okay? I'm gonna get a little vulgar. I don't know if you're gonna add this in this,
We'll add it.
but anyway, my partner always talks about how men get post-nut clarity, that after they come, their level of clarity is through the roof. And I want to say that for me as a
I
woman,
mean, that there may be some truth to that. There can be some validity.
yeah,
Doesn't sex is insanely important in our emotional regulation.
100%. But for him, for me, I get like, what? But the day my moon cycle starts and until it ends, it's like I can see the future. I can see the past, present, and the future. I become superhuman where I know the answers to everything. And I
Mhm.
am so logical and analytical. It's almost like this is what men feel like, or this is what it feels like to really have every cylinder, kind of going like, yes, there's cramps and there's those things mildly at this point, but I'm just so, so spot on. And then the last day and the day after, it's like, I'm filled with all of this love and I'm filled with all of this understanding. So, Jose and I have a rule. We don't do serious conversations while I'm on my period
Okay.
because it's too, it's not good. So we wait till, the end. Sometimes we should wait a day after, but we waited and we had just a very, very heart to heart, very serious conversation about, you know, what's wrong for me and what's wrong for him and what's not working and what is working, and thinking of different scenarios of like, this is what our life looks like here and this is what our life looks like apart, like all of these different things. And it took just this period of time for me to realize that these triggers that I'm having in the relationship, one of this foundational pieces of myself is like, I can be a brat. And I hadn't realized how much my brattiness has been affecting us. So I grew up a very unique way. And I grew up with, I had a lot of masculinity in the household, even from my mother's side and growing up with my brothers, but growing up fighting for my needs and for love and for like, this is mine, like, don't touch this. And not realizing that in this relationship, even though we're a partnership, I'm still like, well, this is mine. Well, no, like very, very bratty. And this individual, my partner, is nothing but love. Thinks about me first. Oh, like I can't say that I am that way all the time. I think about myself because I've been in survivor mode for so long. No one's going to meet my needs. I have to meet my own needs. And even if this person is meeting some needs, like there's a fear, like not willing to let go. Like I still have to put myself first.
There's a definitely a resistance there.
A strong resistance. And I came to this understanding a couple of nights ago where it actually brought up then shame, because now I reflected on, I've been with my partner for 2 years. I've been bratty for 2 years. And he has never left through all of the hard times. He has seen me at my worst and he has seen me at my best. And he's been, oh my God, why do I feel like I'm going to cry? Oh,
It's a beautiful thing.
because to have someone really stand by you and still like being a survivor, healing from things and really pushing forward and then trying to be that healer for others while you're still always healing in the process. Like,
Yes.
I always had this fear of like taking on clients and really being authentic or taking on a different caliber of client. It's like, well, I'm not fully healed to this extent. And it's like,
Yes.
you're never going to be fully healed. You're always, it's that electrical charge. It's like, now you're just at this level, and a mentor had once said to me, they're like, you're not healing Oprah. You're healing at the fives. Oprah's at the 15s. You know what I mean? And there's just a caliber, and that caliber will continue to adjust. But to have this partner who sticks with me through it all, and then even when I'm feeling that shame, because it's really hard sometimes to take accountability and to admit. And sometimes it just takes me a long time to see it.
Yeah.
But there's that shame, like that is going to come up when you finally see what you've been doing and to take accountability for it and then to like really sit with that and then see like it hurts my heart like this and then there's this layer that gets peeled off of him and it was like wow, I put a film over him that he was being, when it was really me putting a mirror over him just to reflect so I could see my own reflection. Like, bitch, that ain't him, it's you. And you need to work on you. You know what I mean? Because it's always a reflection. And I projected what I needed to see, and he wasn't doing like, and he'll always admit he's not perfect. He has his own things, but you know, to really open your heart to love, like when you're feeling shame and guilt and anger and all these things, it's really hard to be receptive to love, like really challenging. And I don't know if I went off on a tangent, but
No, this is so great. It all ties into each other. I want to touch on, so we were talking about the beginning stages of us being single and what that looks like when we're healing from our trauma, right? But now we're going into a relationship. We're entering a place that we are calling upon, that we feel ready to embrace. And
mhm.
then, boom, trauma hits again. Like trauma strikes again. And we're just like, where is this coming from? Why is this happening? I've done all the work. So now we are into the relationship. We're navigating all these things. It's a constant navigation that we will forever be on if we stay with this person or any person, right? It takes work and lots of self awareness and accountability, right? Which I feel like you're the queen of accountability. I don't think that you give yourself enough credit. I
Oh,
have been working with you for a long time, the same way that I have been working with you and you have been my healer. I feel like I've low key been your therapist, not just your friend.
oh, yeah,
And I am always like, I know her. Like, I know what she's going through right now. I know what she needs to hear. And I feel like you have always, anytime that we talk about things coming up for you in the relationship that are very triggering for you, that bring up your childhood or your physical traumas that you've endured, or, a lot of your own internal things, you always hold yourself so accountable. And I think that that's such an important thing in a relationship with yourself, is to just be very real with yourself and understand, like, I know these toxic or unhealthy qualities within me. I understand maybe to an extent where they're coming from or where they're stemming from, but I'm not going to sit in that shame, right? Because automatically, so much shame. The second that we actually hold ourselves accountable and we are looking in a mirror and we are saying, like, you did this, like, you're the problem, there's no one to blame, so much shame seeps in. And it is hard to get out of that shame
yeah.
because, yeah, you feel like such a piece of shit,
Yep.
or it is so uncomfortable to feel that much accountability that you will deflect, or you will actually be like, we're not going to do this. It's not me. It's definitely them,
Or just associate.
or disassociate. Yeah.
And that feeling of like, they talk about like the 5 stages of grief, which can be used in any aspect of anything. You get to, that bargaining, you're seeing where you're at, and it's like, am I going to accept it? And then if you do, then you move on to that shame and depressive episode. And I find that when we talk, the level of awareness I have is really there. It's getting to acceptance. It's truly accepting those things that is sometimes a struggle, and also taking action on them. So easy to talk to you about them and to be aware. Like I am very, very aware, and I know that. And it's almost like, you know, when I'm with you and talking to you is so different than when I'm talking to Jose. It's almost like sometimes my awareness gets lost, or it's I'm deflecting. It's like the clarity that I have with you is very different when I'm with him, and it takes me forever, but that's why I think the therapy that you offer is so important, because
Oh, thanks,
when
Tina.
when I've had some real life shit between Jose and you're the first person I go to. Like when I won't go to anyone else.
I know, and you always say, like, I'm so sorry. I feel like I'm using you. And I'm like, you can't use me. I'm your friend. This is
I
literally
I just feel like
my job.
I know, but it's like you got a lot of your own stuff, you know what I mean? And so when I come to you and it's a lot, and for me to open up, it is also a lot for me, but in those real moments of where I'm really struggling in the relationship, a conversation with you, I immediately then have the confidence and the clarity and the I feel at ease that I immediately then go to Jose. He's so receptive because you bridge that gap with our communication. You help my communication style and his communication style very different. And you give me the clarity, and you are biased. You can see it from both sides. So then I'm like, I can see it from both sides. And then I go to him. And when we go to you with our problems, we come to a resolution way quicker than just him and I.
Aw, Tina, don't gas me up so hard.
Oh, I'm serious. I mean, and I have a very specific moment in my head I'm thinking about. I mean, texting you on Instagram, whatever outlet I can get you on. I'm like, this is what's going on. And even Jose at some point, he'll be like, why don't you go ask Vanina about this? You know what I mean? Because
Aw, thanks, Jose.
yeah, I'll be stuck in my ways, not willing to see another viewpoint because I believe that I am right.
Hmm.
And now, most of the time, I am in our situations, and he'll admit that. He will.
This
But
is true, though. This is true. Many times we are right.
especially in the relationship aspect, and when it comes to my trauma and my triggers, I get a grander picture when I talk to you, and I can approach the situation at a more calmer
Oh,
level.
I love that. Thanks, Tina. That makes me so happy that I can be that for you and for
Oh,
Jose. I
yeah,
had no
no.
idea. That makes me
Yeah, it's
happy.
really I mean, you've saved our relationship in many ways because of a lot of like trials and tribulations that we've had, which were really hard. Coming to you gave us this other viewpoint, and brought us closer together. He even said, what did he say? It was like a week ago or something. I think we were in the thick of it. This is during my cycle. And I was like, I want us to go to therapy together. Now, he never wanted to do therapy. Okay. And he was like, okay, we can do therapy. And
Wow, look at us go.
well, I hope you know it'll be Vanina. So, so, but it was, especially, and maybe you can understand this better, him being Hispanic, for a Hispanic man, therapy was like, I'm not going to therapy. And for him, it was a big step. It was a really big step.
That's
So,
huge. That's really huge. That makes me so happy for you guys.
yeah.
And, whatever path you guys choose, I think it's just big for him. I think it also speaks volumes on how he feels about your relationship and how seriously he takes it, but how safe. and how masculine you are able to make him feel. Because, like you said, because of our culture, Hispanic men can be a little macho, right? Like, we know that. I don't want to put any labels, but machismo is definitely a real word in the Hispanic community, and it's for very big reasons. So I think that when you're in a relationship that sees you and appreciates you and validates you, whether it's in our femininity or in his masculinity, I think that speaks volumes on where you guys are at and what you're providing to him, that you make him feel masculine enough that he's like, yeah, I can do that. I can feel good about going to therapy and working on my relationship. And I'm not macho enough for that because you're filling my cup in other ways that I truly need and bringing me up and making me feel like I am safe within myself and I am safe within the relationship with you and we can navigate this.
Yeah. And it's just so beautiful. And I mean, you know, the beginning of the relationship, you know all about it. And so from where it started and where it's at
You
now,
guys are completely different human beings from
wow.
where it started. I know. It's
You
insane.
know, this actually segues into something really important that's been coming up a lot with my clients. And I wrote it in our little notes, but it was basically, so I'm just going to read this really quick. How do we fully move past our trauma if we're always triggered? Which can also bring us back into shame for not moving forward enough. It's as though one oscillates between feeling healed and then all of a sudden being triggered right back to shame.
Yes. That
And
that part.
the where my mind was with that, it pertained to relationships, not just romantic, but friendships, your relationships with your family. So when we're healing, um, I don't know about you, but my experience, right? Because my healing journey has been happening for a long time. And in the beginning, it was really removing people, places, and things that would trigger me back into a state of mind that was very unhealthy. So I had to remove things.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but do you think that were you actively healing? Like, were you consciously saying, I'm struggling and I'm going to actively practice self-awareness and try to heal? Or were you in survival mode and just automatically removing people, places, and things? Like, what did that look like? Because there is a huge difference.
There's a huge difference. At 23, I got sober from alcohol. So removing people, places, and things were removing all of the things that revolved around drinking, people, and things like that, because it was very unhealthy for me. And in order to gain a little traction, I had to remove those things because to stay in a toxic environment, you know, you are a product of your environment. The point that I want to bring up now is okay, so I know that I grew up in a toxic household, or I know that this family member's toxic, X, Y, and Z. So the when and where is it okay to, and I guess this is where boundaries come in, to be in situations where you're going to get triggered regardless. It's never going to go away because these people might be toxic and they're tied to you. They're your family, right? And that's there's that situation. And you can create your boundaries and you can also just remove yourself from it, not have that relationship. But to go a step further, and this is what I've been talking about with my clients, is that when you're in a relationship, right? And you're going to be triggered, right? Because when you heal on your own, that's one thing. And once you start bringing in all of these other people, it really shows you how healed you are and and how much more work there is to do and if you want to revisit that relationship or not. So when you're finally feel you're in a good healthy relationship, but certain triggers keep coming up. How do you know is this healthy still or is this not healthy? And how do I move past this? Am I not taking accountability or like how can you see past that? Which is the path? Because in the beginning, right, first getting sober, if it triggered you, you stayed away from it because your nervous system didn't have the capacity to regulate itself, you know, from going to fight or flight to rest and digest. It just you couldn't risk being in fight or flight that's sympathetic because of the harm that it does to your body, all that cortisol and adrenaline, the inflammation that you receive, the gut dysbiosis, like it's just dysregulation. So now you've healed and worked on yourself so much and you're in this relationship. How do you know if this relationship, maybe you don't even know if it's healthy? How do you know if it's healthy? How do you know if it's not healthy?
I think it's also just having experiences where you thought you were doing the right thing and then it didn't work out and you were completely wrong. How do I trust myself? Like, how do I trust myself to navigate and understand if this relationship is healthy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's what trauma does to us, right? It causes that mistrust and that fear in people, in our environment, and even within ourselves. And that is what kind of keeps us a little lost at times is I don't even know if I can trust myself because I thought I was doing the right things or I knew that things weren't the best, but I chose certain things or certain things were done to me and now I'm here and I don't know how to move past that and how to trust myself that I can move past that or notice that.
We can think, you were talking about like safety before, like logically, I know, I believe I'm safe with this person, but my body doesn't feel it yet. My body hasn't caught up to what my mind believes. I have a client, and I'm not going to name names, but I just want to use a situation, an example. You know, she's in a partnership, unsure of the partnership. There's things that are yeses, things that are nos, but there was a situation that arose where she wanted to take a break. But then an interesting thing happened. Her partner brought up to her, "Hey, I don't know, I don't like the way you've been treating me." Now, mind you, this individual, she's been on the fence. When her partner told her that, she actually got, and then the thought of like, oh, I'm gonna end this relationship, she got sad. Now, mind you, the whole time she was like, I want to break, like I can't stand the X, Y, and Z. And so she then said, well, do I trust myself that I'm sad because I'm losing the relationship, or is it because I'll be alone? It's using that discernment, like, which is it? And how do I feel that in my body? And there's so many different emotions to kind of dissect. And that's why I feel sometimes you just have to move and wiggle and move the energy around and then pause and sit. And that's why yoga, I got into yoga when I got sober because it stopped my mind, because I was like, oh my God, I have to put my body in these positions. And when I first started yoga, I couldn't touch my toes either. And and moving my body, and then all of a sudden you're exhausted physically, that now that energy and those electrical charges, those emotions have subsided, you can think.
Right.
And that's the power of the mind and body connection, and that's somatic healing and breath work and breathing through that. But yeah, getting back to, those triggers that now come up in this relationship, and what part do we trust, and can we trust ourselves? And it's sometimes I get lost, which is why I reach out.
We all get lost though. I mean, it's inevitable. None of us, I think that you have the answers all the time. And then when you come to me with certain things, I'm like, wait, you're the unicorn. You want advice from me?
Sometimes my magic, like,
I know it's very hard to, even as a professional, it's very hard to help yourself. Like when you're in the thick of it, I will tell you, like, did so much work with postpartum moms. And then when it happened to me, oof, I would look in the mirror and I'd be like, get it together. Say all the things that you would say to all your clients, to all your moms. And it's different when it happens to you. You can't be your own unicorn. And that's not always, right? Like, obviously, we have certain tools put into place, we have the knowledge. But I think with that also comes a lot of shame of when we feel human and we know what we would say to our clients or we know what we should be doing and we just cannot and we will not. And there's that resistance. We get so, at least I do. I get so angry with myself and that anger turns into shame. And now I'm just in a hole of shame and I'm like, I suck. I don't remember anything. I don't know what a coping skill is. I don't know how to properly communicate. All I do is yell. And you know what? That's going to be what it is. And it's just a shit show.
do you know what comes to my mind? At least for myself, it's like, well, I'm the practitioner, I'm the healer. Like, this is what I do for people. And then all of a sudden, when the tables reverse and I need help, it's like I feel shameful for needing to ask for help. but it's also like, I don't want to be a burden. Oh my God, I'm going to show all of my most vulnerable parts. You know what I mean? And it's sometimes it's like, well, why can't I do this for myself? But it really comes down to I have to ask for help. And sometimes that's actually one of the hardest things for me to do is to ask for help because I'm so hyper independent, so traumatized from certain things that I had to do that it's like I'm efficient. I could do everything on my own. I don't need help. But it's like, no, I actually need help and I want support. I want that. I want my community. I want to feel loved. And that's, I think, part of it that comes with asking for help is like accepting and inviting in love, be nurtured and supported.
100%. 100%. I actually remember when I was seeing you, again, I had all of these depictions of you in my brain of who you were as a person, and you just had all of the answers. Like the moment you grabbed my liver and you knew why it was angry, and you knew that I had been through specific traumas from touching my kidneys, like the things that were coming out of your mouth, I'm like, she is a magical creature put on this planet, and she is untouchable, and she is way better than I'll ever be in any aspect of life. And then the second that we became comfortable with each other and you started showing your human to me, I actually did not like it. And I did not receive it well. And I was like, fuck her. Okay. Fuck her for ruining this for me, thinking that I had found like a leprechaun at the end of the rainbow.
Oh my God.
No, I'm not kidding. I was very upset. And I remember sitting with that because that spoke to me. Because I was like, I know that no one no one is magical. First of all, we are all very human.
Mhm.
And what is this fear that I hold, right? Like I completely turned it into me. The second I blamed you, I raged, screamed you, all of these things for like about 5 seconds. Because I was like, what is she doing? Why is she showing me that she has emotions? Like, what is going on? Why are you telling me your problems? I was like, wow, you are not feeling safe at all. And it's not because she just showed her human, it's because you're not trusting yourself. And a part of me realized that you were leaning on me a little bit because I made you feel safe as well. But I felt so low about myself and I felt so unsafe and I felt so unvalued
In yourself?
in myself that I didn't feel like I had anything to offer you. Like, why is she coming to me? Why does she want to talk to me? Like, I suck. I'm not a good therapist. I'm not a good coach. I feel awful. I'm the most human I could ever be right now. Like, I am useless to anyone right now, especially myself. But forget about helping you. And that's what I learned. I was like, wow, you are really down on yourself. Because I didn't know those things. Like I didn't know anything about me feeling that bad about myself until you showed your human. And I got so angry because I was like, why would she ever come to me about that? I don't know anything. Like all of these things started pouring out on me. I remember I was sitting in my car after seeing you and I was like, you have a lot of work to do. Like that is not true. You're a very valuable person. You are very worthy. You are very smart. You are very capable. You do help people. You are good enough. She is coming to you because you made her feel safe in
Mhm.
your vulnerability, and that's a beautiful thing.
Do you want to know what is so funny? Is that I'm like, why is this girl coming to me? She's a therapist. What am I gonna do for her? She literally
I
knows
mean, I literally showed you I couldn't touch my toes, so you knew you at least had like you
that
could help
aspect.
me
But
with
like
that.
when we were going through it all, like when we were talking and I was like, this is what I feel, this is what's going on. And you're like, I worked through that. I did this and I did that. And I'm like, I'm not
You're like,
sure
ma'am, why are you here? What do you want from me?
what's going on here. But I feel the same. I'm like, Vanita can do it all. Like what am I doing? So it's like we have the same thing in ourselves
Yeah.
going on when really it's what a collaboration because together, like to really put it in because what I lack you have and vice versa. You know what I mean? It's such a symbiotic relationship. So it's so funny to hear your experience, you know what I mean? And to be honest, like for me coming to you, I was like, "Oh my God, I'm about to burst a bubble." Like
Yeah.
I'm not perfect. And it's like we said, choosing which clients we can do that with to be super real.
1000%. And I think that's why in a private practice, right, there are these plans and procedures put into place where you don't share social media, you don't text, you don't see family friends or family members or none of that. And it's for a very real reason. The rules that are put into place, it's to keep the client safe
Yep.
and to keep the clinician safe.
Yep.
But I think that that's with a very, it's not a one size fits all at the same time.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
think that when you're a coach or when you have your own practice like you have it, we do get that luxury of choosing a specific clientele, a specific population that we know, okay, my services, the way that I like to conduct myself, will be meaningful and productive for this specific clientele.
mhm.
Um, but it's not always. You're not a great clinician or practitioner or healer just by being transparent all the time. Like we were talking before this, you also have to read your audience, right? Like they might not be ready for all that realness. They might,
Yeah.
maybe that's what their healing is asking for at some point in the journey with you, but that might feel too much or too overwhelming or not healing at all. You might actually push someone away because people sometimes need that very structured room to sit in order to feel comfortable and safe in it until they start processing things with you and they start feeling safe within themselves and in the environment. And then we can slowly start tapping into more of that realness, more of that transparency. And I mean, that's essentially what happened with me and you, but I'll never forget it. Like, you did burst my bubble. That's exactly what you fucking did. You burst my bubble. And I'm like, why did she just burst my bubble? She was a magical creature from another planet. And now she's just another traumatized girl like me. What the fuck am I going to do? Like, who am I supposed to see now? Because this girl knows everything and fixes everything in me, right? Like, from day one up until now, even when I see you, I'll randomly call you and I'll be like, my legs are feeling weird. It's probably because I can't touch my toes, but I'm like, there's something stuck emotionally within me, right? And my legs aren't functioning the way that I need them to. And I know, like, boom, Tina. Tina has the answer always, always.
What was the last session when you came here with Celestina? You you said something in that you text me like, "Oh God, I wish I can go back to it." Like and do you know what's funny too as a practitioner? Sometimes I have sessions with people and I'm like, "Wow, like I hope they like got some." Like sometimes I feel like I didn't even do anything.
Yes.
And but then after you left and you're like, I had this revelation and that's what it was. It was this word, this one word out of the whole session. I said one word. You're like, boom, that's what it was. Sometimes that's all, that it takes.
That you said one word.
I said one word to you and it was the word that you were feeling.
So that's been happening a lot to me, and I want to talk about that when it comes to either trauma or shame. So I have been sitting with an excessive amount of shame, like in my body. I will never forget when I did ayahuasca. And there was a lot of different medicines that I did with that as well, that I could physically, like, I was crawling in my skin. It was like fire ants were within me. I couldn't take being within myself. There was so much hatred and just intense amount of shame. And I remember in my ayahuasca journey laying there, feeling all these things, being very conscious of it all, very awake, and being like, this is what I've been feeling internally, and now I'm really feeling it physically. Like as a real physical sensation. And it was really tough. It was very ugly. It felt very ugly. And it was just covered in shame. Like, shame was the perfect word. But then I was like, what is my shame? And that is something that I really want to work with my clients after having this revelation myself. My goal in my practice is, I thought we had to get through shame, and I thought that we had to get over shame. No, first I thought we had to get over shame, right? Like, you just got to get over it. And then I realized you can't get over things. You have to literally go through them, which is where my buffalo mentality comes in with my program of like, you need to stand strong
Mm-hmm.
and you need to charge through this storm, charge through your shame, give it the love, the nurture that it needs, see it, sit with her, hold her, validate her, and move through her. And now, as I'm also doing that, part of me is starting to maybe think that we're supposed to just accept our shame and know that it's going to be with us forever, like a little piece, just a little piece. And because it is a part of us. And why are we trying so desperately to get rid of parts of us that aren't so pretty and don't feel so good, right? Like, I'm not saying I want to wear my shame or my trauma like a badge of honor. Like, look at what I went through and I'm so much better for it. Like, no, there's a lot of things that we go through that we should not go through. But I think what I'm trying to say is like, I've recognized that I want to make it a point for people to understand, like, you don't have to be ashamed of your shame, right? Like, you have to accept it and you have to invite her in and you have to sit with her and you have to love her and you have to listen to her. And I recognize that, when I was starting Penetrate Through Shame, because I really wanted to just like stick it into shame, I got a massage. I'm sitting after the massage and I'm just feeling like that was a good massage, but I'm feeling all of these things in my body, which makes sense. And I'm sitting there and I'm researching shame and articles on shame, and it's just I'm going, my brain is racing there for a couple hours. And then I'm reading a word that someone described shame as humiliating,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
as one of the feelings that shame can bring on. And I started hysterically crying. You don't understand. Like, hysterically dry heaving, couldn't get it together, crying. I grabbed my mouth and I just like couldn't breathe and I was gasping for air and I was just trying to keep it cool because I was in public. And well, not in but like in a spa
Yeah.
setting, and everyone's being peaceful and zen, and I'm over here like reading about shame and reliving my trauma, and I just like found the perfect word, and it was like coming home. It was like coming home to me. I read the word humiliation, and I had the biggest trigger that I had had since ayahuasca. Like, it was a movie. Like, I was just like, a projector went on, and I just relived that whole moment within a millisecond, so quickly. I felt it as if I was literally there. I was frozen, and it was just from reading that word.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that in that moment that I had lived through a very specific trauma, I was humiliated. And that's what I had been carrying with me. I felt like I was walking humiliation, like just humiliated for what had been done to me. And I could never understand it, like what it was. And I don't know why to this day that word for me feels empowering. Like, I say the word humiliation and I feel empowered. I'm like, I know it. I know what my shame is. That for me, humiliation, that's what my shame looks like and feels like. And that's what that stood within me. And I really think that we all have a very specific word
Mm-hmm.
that can do that to us. And it's just coming home to it.
Mm-hmm.
And really, it's just the validation, just a better understanding and validation of ourselves. And I don't know, it's like I put my little humiliation sticker on my shame within me, wherever it is. I kind of always feel like it's in my gut, which makes
Mm-hmm.
a lot of sense. But, and now I feel better about it. And I'm like, really? That's all I needed? I just needed to find a word. No amount of therapy or movement or, it was just finding that word for me.
Well, think about that. That word holds a frequency. So it's like that frequency tuned something in for you to release. You leaned into it, right? We lean into the discomfort, and that was what frequency resonated with you, and it was able to produce an outcome.
Love, I love you. I needed this too. This was like very, 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 very good. This
This
was
was very fulfilling for me in many aspects because I feel like what I'm calling in right now is I want to work with people, and
mhm,
I want to flow. Like, I need this. It's
mhm.
really
Me
hard
too.
in your own practice. I need
Mhm.
people to bounce off
I
of.
know.
I need the energy.
I know. That's how I feel.
I need it.
That's why I also wanted to start a podcast, because I'm like, I need to talk to professionals. I need to talk to healers. I need to talk to other moms and talk about the mom issues that we're having. Literally anything that I know women can relate to, and I know that women need,
Mhm.
but it's just not out there, or maybe it's not put out there in a way that they would like to receive it, um, or that they can relate to it. Like, we started off in the beginning, right, saying like, I'm healed, I know all these things about myself, but it's because we are able to provide what we need in that moment for ourselves, where our only person that we need to take care of when you're in a marriage, that changes completely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like I found that I love that working with people because that's something that I specifically struggled with. I'm not saying like we're fully there and great, but Chris and I have made insane strides in our communication and like the way that we view our roles and what works for us and what doesn't. And I mean, that's why I started going to you, was because I was like, holy shit, I'm engaged and I don't know what to do with a fucking husband. What does that look like for me? Like, I haven't been to Europe since I met Chris, and I
Yeah.
used to live in Europe and I went once a month. Like, life changes when you have a husband
Mm.
or a serious partner. Um, so like, I love working with women like that are in that shock phase of like, what the fuck just happened? Like, this is what I wanted, and why is it so hard? And all of their trauma is coming up for them.